First weekend playing always feels great to get something under your belt, get a couple matches against some really good teams, two NCAA tournament teams, and teams that were either ranked or knock on the door of being ranked. So good competition coming out of the gate. I thought, a lot of our players had some good moments, and a lot of moments where we were able to get back and watch some film and try to clean up. It's a really short turnover time this week. We leave tomorrow for a couple matches against Arkansas, and then have a very short break before we play Tennessee. But we'll take questions.
Kelly, I know it's early in the season, and it's tough to get a gauge on where teams stand so early, but were you surprised at any of the results of the Big Ten teams, including Texas going down, Penn State getting beat? I mean, those are upsets. Any of that surprise you?
The opening weekend, it's one thing with about any sport, right? Is I think you start seeing, as you get a couple weeks under your belt, they're becoming a little bit less upsets, if you will. I think experienced teams that have been together have a huge advantage. I think it was 2014. I think it was we just went to the championship game in maybe it was 15. I don't know. We came out of the gates and played a really good Western Kentucky team that stuck us at home in the season opener. And their style of play we weren't used to. They had a lot of people that had been together the year before. Teams that have been around together, I think, have a huge advantage. That's where sometimes transfers or young teams, or you're playing a team that is just so different than yours, that can be tough coming out of the gates. But, yeah, there was a lot going on in our sport for sure in week 1. It's just a lot of what you'd consider probably upsets or that were happening this weekend.
Kelly, a couple years ago, you guys had a lot of these back-to-backs with, the same opponent. And I guess I'm wondering, one, what you like about that setup, and two, what do how do you think it's a good fit for this particular group as you kind of, try to figure things out?
Yeah, it wasn't something that we went searching to do. We were fortunate that Arkansas was open to doing this. We couldn't find anybody to play this in week 2. I mean, we were struggling, and then we got locked in with them, but another team that was going to their tournament had no interest in playing us, and they said we're already coming to Arkansas, but we won't play Wisconsin, and so. And they presented an opportunity of saying, hey, this other team won't play you, but we'll play you twice if you want to do it. And so we're really grateful for that. It's a good team. It's an NCAA tournament team. Really good coach. I'm sure they'll give us some different looks from night 1 to night 2. Yeah, you're right. We did this in COVID in the Big Ten. It's it's different, certainly playing back-to-back. I kind of prefer the way that we have it right now. But it is interesting watching two teams, the exact same team, and going back and making some adjustments and seeing if you're able to make those adjustments from one night to the next. So it's just a different challenge.
Timmy didn't get in Saturday. What was your reasoning for that?
For Timmy? I don't know if I had necessarily a reason for it. I can see us doing that from match to match, not just with Timmy, but with some other people. We've got 3 really good left side hitters, and trying to have each of them evolve, I think, would be something that is what we're hoping to do.
Do you expect Yulia and Gulje to rotate all season long, or is that just something you were trying out in the first 2 games?
It's that's the $1 million question, right? It's a good question. I don't think I've locked in on either one of those. I think both of them need to be on the court for us. Whether Golche could be a libero or a DS. I could see Yulia being an outside, a libero, or a DS that we're setting out of the back row. I could see her fulfilling each of those positions. And so in the near future, it'll continue to rotate. And as we go through the season, it'll be something that continues to evolve.
Kelly, going back to something you said 2 questions ago, there was a team that didn't want to play you. Does that happen very often? And not to out that team, but what was the reason given?
They didn't want to play a team of our caliber, which it's for that particular time. One of the things we're finding is, it's hard. Sometimes it's easier to fill out your schedule when people are, when you're one of the first ones on a schedule. Where I think a level of team of where we're at. When teams are making their schedule and they've got, all right, tough team here, tough team here, tough team here, they don't want to fill in with somebody at where we are. And, where maybe that same team, if we're one of the first ones on the schedule, they're fine with that because they can craft their schedule around that. And then you have differences with some people. We don't want to play 2 matches in one day. There's a ton of that happens in our sport. We just have chosen not to do that. And so that eliminates some teams right from the get-go of wanting to play us. So, yeah.
You seem to run out of subs against Baylor, especially with Yulia playing libero and having to rotate with Gulje. Is that something that's workable going forward, something that maybe you could figure out a way to, I guess, keep the subs going longer, or is that something that was unavoidable in that scenario?
Yeah, I guess the NCAA could give us unlimited subs like they do in some other sports. It's not something I'd be voting for, but they could do that. We actually didn't run out of subs at any point, I don't think, this past weekend, but we were getting pretty close. And so then you have some decisions to make, being able to not DS or not sub. But that's one of the things I like about our team is both of our middles that, Carter was a little high service errors, but her serves are really, really nasty. She just got us to get them in more frequently. And Caroline has a really good serve. So we don't need to have a service sub for either one of them. Our outsides, we don't have to DS for any of them. But we've got the flexibility. And so if we run out of, I don't plan on using so many subs that we're in danger of having to go to a 5-1. Hopefully that's not something that we're doing. But if we do, both of our setters every day in practice play front row. Every day in practice our opposites are playing the back row. So we can roll with it if that happens.
Kelly, you kind of touched on a little bit ago, just all the lineup, excuse me, the lineup things you're kind of working through. Communication is always important, but I guess I'm wondering, especially at this time of year, is it especially important with this group as you're kind of trying to figure things out that you make sure everyone is understanding what you're trying to do? It's
huge. It's I just walked down here from practice. Sorry, I was a few minutes late, but that was what we were working on up there is how do we unclog some of those communication lines a little bit. Communication's really, really important, especially in our sport where you can't stop and hold the ball and get everybody situated. You've got to be able to roll and move forward. But we're mixing up lineups every single day in practice. So what we do in the matches isn't anything different. We don't go an A team versus a B team. In practice, it's mixed every single drill, so they're used to playing with different people around them.
I'm sorry. I guess I was also thinking from the standpoint of players understanding like Timmy last week, understanding, hey, okay, there might be some matches that we figure things out that you might not play as much as you're used to playing. I guess from a coaching standpoint to a player, is that something, especially at this time of year, you're really kind of hone in as you're trying to figure things out?
You mean, am I talking to somebody if they're not playing and giving them a reason or something like that?
Yeah, I guess I'm just not necessarily explaining yourself, but just making sure that everyone understands, hey, this is what we're,
Yeah, it's there's transparency is certainly what you're wanting to do. If it's there's no guarantee of playing time. There's you come here where these aren't players that are trying to get individual awards or something. Those aren't anything with this team and the depth that we have. It's hard to get those Player of the Week awards or maybe even those end of the season awards because there's a lot of balance and in some cases like with this group it's I don't really see anybody playing 6 rotations every single match of the year. And but I think that we threw that out there at the very beginning of the year, and then it's rolling with it. We're not going to micromanage every single week of telling people why they're in or why they're not in. I thought Timmy, looking at her on the sideline, she was having a blast. There probably hasn't been too many matches where she's just been standing over there on the sideline with her teammates, but great teammate, and hopefully she was learning and be able to apply to this week like all of our players.
With number 1 Texas losing and you guys obviously winning, that number 1 spot ranking will likely go to you guys. Is that something that you relish and welcome without getting too hung up in it? Just can you talk about that ranking?
Yeah, we don't shy away from it. It's not something that we talk down. We don't talk up. We don't, quite frankly, don't care. Would I rather be 1 than 301? Absolutely. But it's, but I also remember the first time we ever got a number 1 ranking. It lasted for 48 hours before we got swept at home. And that can be a humbling. We were excited about it that first time because it never happened in program history. But it's, it's not something we shy away from. It's not something we get excited about. It's not something we talk down. It's the exact same thing of if we're unranked. It's the exact same thing if we become 25th or 10th or 2nd or 1st. It's never talked about, and not because it's taboo. It's just we don't care. It's a great question. I don't want you to think that there wasn't, but it's not something we've done this. We've been in that position before. What we try to get locked in, especially at this time of year, is our next opponent and getting better and putting our attention there rather than some of the other stuff.